Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Fallon Jordan, and have the amazing Stephen Puri with me. And Stephen is a really cool story. He's founder of the Suhka company, and
Mhm.
he's led remote companies and teams for over 20 years. So,
Mhm.
I'm excited just because, a lot of companies lost their minds and lost their revenue when COVID hit, but you've been doing it for so long. And so,
Before
thank you.
Zoom became a verb, I was doing it.
Oh my God. Yes, that is so funny. I love that before it became a verb. So he's going to just be sharing some of his wisdom with us. And he also worked in Hollywood as a producer. So I just feel like there's a lot of really fun things that are going to come through with us today. And I'm just so excited. Thank you for being here.
I was so happy to be here, and definitely something that excites me, and I hope this excites your listeners. We're going to find out is there are a lot of lessons that I saw in the film world because I was a senior executive at two studios, Fox and DreamWorks, that translated into the new world of I've been leading a lot of remote teams, and that means that there is a space in your home, just like the space in your brain, that needs to be able to focus to become decluttered and really do your best work. And a lot of those techniques, some of them are things you do in the computer, some of the things you do in your body, and I've been sharing a lot of those recently. So
I'm so excited. And I love that because, I mean, yes, the podcast is called Decluttered at this current time, but like things are always evolving and shifting. And it's all about just creating the best environment in your mind and your home and your
mhm.
office for getting things done. And so I'm curious, what are some of the things that you've personally found helpful? And then how are you able to kind of like coach and mentor other people who might be struggling with a remote job, especially if it's like their first time?
Okay, super good question. And what I would love to do is I will tell you very personal like experiences that led me to do the research and be like, who's written about this, who's done the scientific papers and this and all that, right? So
Perfect.
real problems that I have in
Okay.
working from home. Number one problem, and I'll tell you this, I run a community now in the Sukkah of a lot of people, and I've spoken to probably 400 or 500 of them over the past 6 years. Just understand the problems. This is a common one. This is the number one thing, which is I call it the cold start problem, which is when you're at home, there are an infinite number of things you could be doing. And what I
Mm,
found is I would tell myself, oh, tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'm going to, tackle my to-do list or at 8:30, whatever time you promise you're going to start doing that. At that time, I would find myself actually, well, let me quickly check my email. Or let me look at my phone for that thing. And then I end up scrolling a bit. Or, oh, I
yeah.
can throw in a load of laundry. And then while I'm working, that'll be going. So it's like multitasking, right? Or I'll do the dishes because it's less, and all these things. And it would turn into like 9:30 or 10 a.m. before I actually got going. And when I look deeply at that procrastination, and I'm a procrastinator. Let's not kid ourselves. That really stemmed for me from a sense of overwhelm. So when I started talking to people in the community and then talking to a lot of people in the community, it seemed like the overwhelm came from two things, both of which are solvable. One is too many things I thought I was going to do. In other words, I had a really cluttered task list. Yes, these 17 things need to get done. But the reality is, and the research shows, you're not going to do the 17 things. And matter of fact, the more you look at a list of 17 things, the more defeated you feel of like, I don't even know where to begin. This is not going to get done. And it
Hmm.
hurts. So I'll tell you, in our platform, our members have done over 500,000 tasks. Now, I can't see what the exact tasks are because, of course, it's private and it's hashed, but I can tell in the aggregate when I go through our backend to say how many tasks got done today, how much time got spent, that sort of thing, right? I can tell you there's a 77% better chance you will do three things if you can only see three things and the rest of the clutter is gone. So while you
Mm.
work, it's like, I need to do one, two, and three. Then if you look at that list of 17 things and you're like, oh, well, I still need to do these things, the better chance you only do two because it starts to work against you. Like the clutter of seeing all that stuff means you'll actually do less in the exact same amount of time. So that's why, for example, in the platform I built, you can declare your three priorities for the session. And then you can have a list of everything else. But while you're working, you can only see those three. And it really helps you just like declutter your mind so you're not thinking about everything else. You're just banging through your things. Incredibly efficient. So that was one technique because there's the overwhelm of too many things. There's also that cold start problem that comes from the overwhelm of that thing is so mad. How am I going to do that? Right. And I found this to be true with myself, others, where you'll write a task down of something that true needs to get done. But the task will be something like, I have to write my book, or I have to,
Yeah.
like, go do this huge thing, or design all the assets for my media campaign. And you're not going to do that this morning, right?
Have you been reading my journal? Those are literally my two things
Right.
right
I
now.
know. I would do this. And then there's the overall feeling you get of like, oh my God, how am I gonna, I know it has to get done. So one of the solutions we came up with and talking to people was, they know that there's a way to break that down, but sometimes you just need that little help. So we built a smart assistant that when you open it in the morning and hit, hey, let's get going, looks at your top three tasks. And if there's something that's outrageous, goes, hey, you know what, Fallon? I know you need to write your book, but what if today's goal is outline the first chapter? And we could maybe do that in, what do you say, 30 minutes, 40 minutes? You're like, yeah, I can do it in 40 minutes. And you know what? I had an idea for that when I was driving yesterday. So I actually have an idea with the outline. Yeah, let's do that. And then suddenly you look at number one, you go, I can do that. And then that momentum of like, yeah, I outlined chapter one. That's going to be 30 minutes. Actually finished faster than I thought. That rolls into the momentum that brings you to two and three. And that's a powerful technique to overcome the things too big. Right. So those are just two things I learned about, you know, the cold start problem. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has that. I think maybe, your
Like
face looked like
everybody.
you're like, yeah, I know. I know that. And I don't know if you've ever had this one or if any of your listeners have, which is, there's like a 3 p.m. sort of slumpish thing if you're working at home,
Oh my God.
right? And it often leads to the 6 p.m. Okay, well, I didn't get it all done, but I'll get up early tomorrow and I'll get a jump on the day and finish this stuff before I start tomorrow's stuff, right? And I've told myself that live, like, well, I'll just get up a little earlier. Da, da, da. And then it really just becomes a domino into tomorrow. Then tomorrow night, you didn't get tomorrow's stuff done. And, through the week. And it's not just you didn't get it done, but you get down on yourself. I got down on myself. God, I suck. Like, it's just so frustrated. Where did the day go? That was a comment. Where did the day go?
Yeah.
Right. And what's interesting about that when you dig into that is that, for me, because I've been medically diagnosed with ADHD. I know there are a lot of people who have that. Even a lot of people are not diagnosed yet, but they have the symptoms, right? Distractions are a real thing. And the world is getting more distracted. There are more beautiful ways to distract yourself every day. It is unreal, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at that, we're like, okay, do people actually want to have 6 p.m.s where they're frustrated? I don't, but I do have them. No one seemed to really want that. So it's like, well, why are we getting this thing of like, oh, okay, I'll just finish this tomorrow, right? And here's what we learned is that when we feel like that little moment of, oh, well, I'm not sure what I should be doing next, really easy to open up your phone. And the app designers have made it absolutely dopamine attractive to be like,
Mhm.
well, I'll just take a quick look at Insta, at Facebook, at TikTok, whatever your poison is, right? And as soon as you do that, it is never 1 minute because they're so good. It is, you're in, and it is a slippery slope, and they know.
Yeah.
And on a certain level, if you want to give your life up to Mark Zuckerberg or Evan or whoever's running TikTok right now, right? Go ahead, give your life to them. They will sell it to advertisers. They will keep the money, and you will do nothing in your life, and you'll be frustrated, right?
Mhm.
Ultimately, my goal is that people don't feel frustration. They actually feel the happiness of, oh man, I'm good at what I do. It's contained. I have time to do what I want to do in my life, right? So here's the simple technique with that. We talked to a lot of our members who were like, what can we do to help? And a number of members said, you know what? I just need that little reminder when I go to reach my phone, be like, are you sure you're going to do this? Because you're going to look up in an hour and be frustrated with yourself. So what we did was this. It sounds stupid simple, but this has been incredibly effective with our members is while you're working, and for example, Suhka, the platform I built, and there are a lot of great apps that do this. They're wonderful things. Choose the one that works for you. I can speak about the one I spent 6 years making, which is
Right.
when you're working and you're like, okay, I'm going to start my day. There's a little QR code on your screen. You can shoot it with your phone. Just tap it, put your phone down. And then if you pick up your phone, the smart assistant in Suhka will be like, Fallon, do you really need to be in your phone right now? Really? And it's enough for people to go, you know what? Okay, this is actually, you're making me you're forcing me to make a conscious choice. Do I want to waste my afternoon, or do I want to be done at 3 and just be like, okay, cool. And you put your phone down and you just need that little bit of like, do you really need this? So your smart assistant will do that in a
Amazing.
different funny way each time. Like,
Yeah.
is texting going to save your life? Whatever. Like the force is strong in you. Are you going to let your phone over you control you? Like little fun things make you go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So those are just some techniques because what I do believe, I don't know if I don't know if you and I talked about this before, which is I'm going to have my first child this year. Super excited. Whoa. Didn't actually think I'd ever be here. I was not focused on being a parent, but Laura, my wife, we met in yoga. We have a daily yoga practice. We're really connected in like a nice spiritual way.
Yeah.
And was a day with her where I was just like, you know what? Actually, the world would be a better place if there are more little versions of her running around, right? Like this would be fun.
Oh,
So we're having a child this year. Super excited.
amazing.
And I thought a lot about, leading up to this. What am I doing that affects the world that they're going to live in? I will die at some point. They will be living in a world where my decisions and the decisions of my peers, my generation have handed them a world. And I'll just be honest, like I was the executive running the Die Hard franchise, the Wolverine franchise. I was at DreamWorks, with Kurtz and Morrissey. We did Transformers 1 and 2, Star Trek 11, like all these movies. People are like, oh, that's so cool. Did any of those really form the world for my children? I don't know. They were fun. Some of
I
them were good,
mean,
some were
I would say
bad.
Wolverine definitely did.
Okay, well, somewhat, it tastes a little bit. But I was thinking, what could I do that actually help people live the life that they want to lead? And that's
Yeah.
why I talk a lot about this. Is it's become a serious thing in my life. Of I want to share. I did a lot of research. I've made a lot of mistakes, tried a lot of things to figure out which ones work. And I was like, how am I sharing this? And another sort of life event is I found out I probably have cancer. It's being managed right now, and it made me contemplate a lot. Like, okay, how long is the road ahead of me, and what am I doing to, to give back the things that were given to me, the learnings that I had, the great, a lot of the great books I read. Like, how can I distill those down to here, like 5 or 10 sentences on a great lesson that can help you?
Yeah.
So those really guided me a lot. So, anyways, there are two problems that I've had, a lot of people have had, and some solutions that we offer to answer your question. Long answer, sorry.
Um, do not be sorry. That was amazing, perfect, beautiful, wonderful. Um, I am not sure if you heard the convo that I had with Julie Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting, Stevens. And then I'll send you some stuff offline, but just reminding everybody that Julie Stevens was diagnosed with stage 4
Mm-hmm.
colon cancer, came back, and her doctor, who's one of my best friends and has been on the pod many times, he sees clients virtually. So, and he can collaborate with your oncologist and your team and all of that. Just reminding people that we have, like, if you don't see a resource somewhere, just send me a message. I will find you someone and something that can be helpful, because we do have all the resources available.
That is very kind of you to offer that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I was thinking about the smart assistant like calling me out on things. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go back to the 3 o'clock thing, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
you've probably worked up like all over the world, right?
We shoot films, yeah,
Yeah.
especially in the old days, like before
Yeah.
5 years ago,
Yeah.
you had to go on set on location more.
Yeah.
Now there's so many virtual sets. It's like, why do we need to go to Romania? We could shoot it here in a studio, So
Yeah, for
it
sure.
used to be, yes, I've shot all over Europe and weird places. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. They're on to something with this siesta thing. And I know that that's also
Yes.
not by coincidence that they do that and are much healthier and happier. But
No.
then they also have more vacation time, and they actually use more of their vacation time
Very
than
true.
do
Very
here in the
true.
States. And, few years ago when I switched I just gotten a new position that could have been remote anyway. I just was
Mhm.
like a people pleasing office addict and wanted to sit in traffic for 3 hours to be a good girl. And then
Okay. We all walking our own path. Okay.
then I switched, and they're like, nope, COVID happened, you have to stay home. And I was like, oh shit. And so I really get like what it's like to go from
Mhm.
so structured to like not structured. And I started thinking, and I was, working with a coach who's really wonderful. She challenged me. I always say, I'm like, your coach should not be your friend. It should be someone that like kind of scares you because they're gonna put you in the hot seat every time you talk to them. And she's like, well, what would your perfect day look like, considering like you get your work done like much more quickly as long as you stay focused on it? And I was like, well, I would exercise in the morning. I would spend time outside in the morning. I would
Mm-hmm.
cuddle with my animals in the morning.
Oh.
Then I would jump into my day around 10. I'd
Mm-hmm.
be done by 3. My Chinese medicine doctor that helps people with
Yeah.
cancer always says like the best time to eat is between 2 and 4. It's the best
Mm-hmm.
for your kidneys and your liver. And I was like, sweet, I can go out of the house. I can go to my favorite restaurant that my friend works at and have a nice big lunch, go home, rest for a little bit. And then if I
Yeah.
needed to finish something, I could. But that social interaction and getting
Mm-hmm.
out of the house was so important. And I think too, I mean, still to this day, like that's how I organize my day, because I like going out and doing something in the afternoon, because it'll be a very easy transition when I'm spending summers in Europe for me to just like be naturally in the siesta schedule. But that's something I'm just sharing in case somebody wants to try that. I mean, even just trying it for a week, and like I get what you were sharing, like the in real life problems of like, well, I can start this laundry and I can do this. And then it's like, yes, but
Mm-hmm.
your time and your attention are much more important. And if like you could pay somebody to come do those things for you while you're working, like, is that really going to be a bigger ROI? And like 99% of the time, it's definitely going to be a bigger ROI.
Yeah.
You hire me to come clean your house, I'm probably going to charge more than a normal person because I'm going to be sprinkling
Not
magic
why I'm going to call
everywhere.
you.
But I think it's important just to shift things up, try something new, right? Especially like how the screens are making us, they were designed to be addictive. And like
Yes.
procrastination is such a bad self-sabotager. And like everybody deals with it on some level. And I meet some people who have a very significant problem with it. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about what we can, excuse me, what we can do today to rewrite this script so that like you can do the things that you want. And like again, like that list of 3 things versus a list of 17 things, I think is
Yes.
huge. So I'm curious, like, because I haven't been able to figure this out. Why do people, and I'm just going to call women now, I feel like we do it more, like write these long, insane to-do lists?
It is not gender specific, and I'll tell you
Okay.
this because our community is pretty balanced.
Okay.
The community I run is a lot of writers, a lot
Okay.
of designers, and developers, right? Because
Cool.
they're all knowledge workers who have focus time. Like I can do this in 6 hours or 3. It depends how focused I am, right? So it's not salespeople who are on Zooms all day long or stuff
Right.
like that, right? Okay. So what I do notice is in talking to them that it is across the board a smart technique, which I will say, which is there's a Zeigarnik effect, which is the amount of brain energy used to hold something in your brain. So if you have a bunch of to-do lists that you're just trying to remember, you're actually using brain energy just holding them in your memory. So writing them down does relieve some of the cognitive load, right? So there is that, and that's proven. However, it leads to exactly what you said, which is, oh, if I actually practice that, then I end up with to-do lists that are capturing everything I've thought about for X number of months since I started using this technique, whether it's writing on a notepad or whether it's using Trello or Todoist or, whatever you use. So that is a real issue. And I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of people, once they get so deep into a productivity technique, sometimes the maintenance of it is so burdensome. It's like doing work before you even do the work you need to do.
Exactly.
And that is something where, again, not to talk too much about my platform, I wanted to solve that and say, how could your, smart assistant kind of bubble up for you every day? Like it feels like here's what you need to do is most important. Like yesterday, you were writing your blog post and you didn't finish. Do you want to make that thing number 1? Right. And then, oh, by the way, it's Tuesdays. I know on Tuesdays, you always do this thing. Do you want to make them? So it sort of like helps you do that without having to comb through the 17 or the 170 things you've captured. Right.
Yeah.
And let me just mention, just to take it off the subject of what I do, because this is not necessarily about what I do, is I'll tell you there's another thing about sort of training your mind, like decluttering your mind, that I witnessed a bunch in film. And
Mm.
one of the things that I really love is in film, like 100 years, it has had the full spectrum of remote, hybrid, in office, in person sort of work, but it's never been called that. Like COVID and the pandemic was really a time when everyone went, oh, we're labeling this distributed teams and asynchronous work and remote and work from home, all these terms, right? But in film, every film starts remote. It's some writers or, one writer
Right.
working from their home, right? Trying to write something great, or working in a coffee shop, or, working at their writing partner's house, right? And then hopefully one of your ideas gets some traction. People start to like it. There's a little budget, a production office opens. Like, 1 or 2 days a week, you're going in there, you're meeting with location scouts. Oh, where should we shoot this? You're meeting with costume designers. What would they wear in the 1800s, sort of thing. And then the other days you're working from home. Then you're on set. It is RTO, if you will. It's, in person all day, all night for months, principal photography, $100,000 a day. Then you go back to hybrid with editors working in dark rooms, and you go back to remote. So that entire thing, when you map that onto modern work, you learn some things. Here's something that I saw personally, firsthand, several times, that was so interesting to me about how you train your brain to get into that focused state where you do great work and you do it quickly, which is there are spaces that you tell your mind to associate with certain kinds of work. So, for example, writers, I've noticed, there were certain writers I worked with who were at the top of the game. For example, Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, with whom I did Independence Day, right? They had this one villa. They obviously brought up semi-wealthy. So they had this one villa in Puerto Vallarta that they rented whenever they wrote, right? So they did like Stargate down there and all this stuff. When they had to go write the next one, Roland told his assistant, yeah, go rent the villa. We'll go down there. And they talked about this space where like the light comes in the morning over the pool and it's a beautiful white villa. And
Oh
it was their
yeah.
creative space where they just like wrote this. So they had to go write, Independence Day, I think it was. And there was a hue and cry because the assistant came back on Friday. It was like, someone's rented the Airbnb, whatever it was, someone's rented the villa already. And Roland was like, creatively, just this was our trade. Like our brain's right there. We can't not have that. Called his entertainment attorney, John Deemer, who's an amazing attorney. He's like, John, buy the house, John. Monday, Roland owned a villa in Puerto Vallarta. And he
Oh
was
my
writing down
gosh.
there with Dean. I do not know where those old renters went. I'm sure they were paid a nice amount of money to go rent the next villa over. But that was how important it was for them because they got in there and it was like their brain switched into, oh, we know what we do. This is where we write.
Mm-hmm.
Independence Day goes off to become the third highest grossing movie in history, right? I saw it later in a very different way with Alex Kurtzman and Bob Worsey. And Bob actually just died a couple of weeks ago, which is really sad. He's an amazing, wonderful guy. But, they were Transformers, they wrote Mission Impossible, they wrote, Zorro, they wrote, Eagle Eye, so many of these franchises. So they're like $1 to $2 million a script. These are top writers in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But they met as college students, scrappy little college students. So when
Oh.
that deadline approached of like, oh my God, we have to turn in Transformers 2 in 4 weeks, whatever, they had their assistant rent a hotel room at the Universal Hilton across the street from DreamWorks, which I'm going to say is not a luxury hotel. This is not like, let's go down to the spa and, enjoy the Turkish hammam. This is like scrappy. But for them, it evoked that feeling of sitting on the edge of the bed in the dorm room, being like, what should happen next? Oh, there was that great scene in Die Hard. That you know what I mean? That was their
So
writing thing. So
cool.
they'd write $2 million scripts out of this not luxury hotel room, shall we say.
Yeah.
It evoked the
Yeah.
feeling of dorm room. And that I violated when I started working from home. I thought, oh, he just made breakfast. My laptop's here. I'll just sit at the kitchen table and work for a little bit. Da, da, da. Oh, I'll go upstairs, work in my office a while. Afternoon, well, the sofa looks so comfy and it's called a laptop. So I'll put it on my lap and I'll work here on the sofa. And I realized I had trained my mind to be sort of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said, you know what, I talked to Laura, my wife, I was like, I'm going to try this thing over the next couple of weeks when I need to do something for, my company, something, I'm going to go upstairs to my office. And if you see me violate that out of bad habit, can you just like nudge me, be my smart assistant, right? And I will tell you, when I walk in with my office where I am now, there is something that comes over me where I don't think about doing stupid stuff because it's been years now of, oh, this is where I do this. And that clarity of thought, that declutter, I think is really important. I'll tell you a related funny kind of film story about how you train your mind. Ron Bass, huge screenwriter, right? Again, in the $1 Million Club. And he writes those roles where it's like Julia Roberts says, yes, I will be in this movie, right? He writes that kind of character. It's true,
Yeah.
which he's done. He doesn't talk to his family in the morning.
Mm.
Rule: don't talk to me. I don't talk to you. And he loves his family, but he will get up at his 5 or 5:30 in the morning and write for like 3 or 4 hours, and then come down and do the hey, who wants cereal? Da, da, da. Let's make pancakes today. Da, 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 right, the whole thing, because he said, I realized that as soon as I have a conversation, I can't hear my characters' voices in my head anymore.
Mm. I
So I
totally get
need,
that.
yeah, I need that whatever that decluttering that happens while I sleep. I need to use that precious time before I start having conversations about the cereal and who's going to the library, da, 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 just so I can write the words that make a Brad Pitt or a Julia Roberts say, I get this character. This character rings true for me. And that's another great lesson about like how powerful the brain is when you say, how do you want to do this? How do you work best? And your brain's like this. Can you just respect this is how I need to do this? And you're like, yes.
Amazing.
Crazy stories. I know. But anyway, so
Well, and I love writing like
mhm.
so much, and I always have. And like, yeah, like you create these little like portals. I mean, I remember some of my best writing as a kid, handwriting, not on a laptop quite yet. It
Right.
was like literally in my little makeshift room, which was my closet, which was really small. But as soon as I would go in there and I'd get all comfy, like all these ideas would just come to
Right.
me. And
That's it.
yeah.
That's the thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. And there's so many ways you can do that. Like, for example, right now, like I also found certain smells. Like, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but
Pretty.
I found that a vanilla-y, orange blossomy kind of smell for me gets me into a certain mental state and makes me feel like alert, but not like I don't drink caffeine. I don't take caffeine, but it makes me feel like, oh, okay, this is cool. I'm doing this thing, right? And at 3 or 4 o'clock, I will put that out, and I'm done with that phase of the day. But it's been a great 8 to 3 or whatever I sort of do. So that's another just simple thing to do is find the scent that works for you
Yeah.
and just create that space.
That is genius. So the scent is one of the biggest unsung heroes, I feel like, in the creativity
Mm-hmm.
space because of
Yep.
the parts of your brain that it activates.
Yes.
And then of course it's linked to a core memory. And for some reason, like
You
I'm
know
thinking
that.
I'm thinking of you as a little boy, like eating some sherbet or something.
Yes. Smell is the sense most closely linked to memory.
Yeah.
More people think it's, oh, I heard that song. It reminds me when I was in college. Or what? It's not actually sight. It's not sound. It is smell. That
Yeah.
right back 3 years old. I remember being in that alley with the smelly thing, whatever. Oh, I remember the smell of that brushwood burning when I was little out on that farm. Like instantly, it is
Yeah.
amazing.
So if you're
There's
a
probably something in my past. You're right. Yeah.
well, and if you're a pandemic person, like there's a reason why that was what was kind of quote unquote attacked in our body was our sense of smell and our sense of taste because
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
they're linked to the hippocampus, which is the most important memory center of your brain.
Oh,
And when that
interesting.
starts to lose function, that's when you start getting like dementia-like symptoms. But then also the candle in the fire is huge because fire symbolizes creativity. And it's so cool because had a friend who she met the love of her life and he was in a very different tax bracket than her in a very good way. So she
Right.
kind of overnight was becoming this whole new level, right? Like
Yep.
queen energy. And she's like, well, what am I going to bring to the table? And she's like doing all this inner work
Mhm.
on like, learning to receive and learning to be,
Right.
partners and what that
Sure.
actually means. And so she just did her normal thing that she is used to doing. And she just set, candles out and she would light them when it was about time for him to come out of his room where he was working. And then after a couple weeks, he's like, I just feel like so much calmer and I don't know why. And she's like, it's because of the candles.
What a
And
beautiful
he was
energy she brought
like,
into that.
whoa. He's like, he was in the stock market. He's like, I've literally had like the best 2 weeks I've ever had. And like, you're telling me it's because you've lit candles around the house. And she's like, yeah.
That is incredibly cool that she thought to bring that into their life. That is,
And just so
I'm,
natural, right? Like women love candles, let's be honest.
this is true. And I'm not a woman. I checked, but I do love my little candle. I'll tell you, you or a friend, Marissa, who does the feng shui.
Yeah.
I am probably violating a lot of rules of feng shui here. I've got metal and fire and like wood. Like all I need is a water element in one corner, and it's all chaotic. But
Well,
next year,
Marissa, the reason I love her, and I my when I was first starting my business, I interviewed like 25 feng shui experts.
Mhm.
Not the best idea because they're all like, who else is going to be there? I need to know what type of feng shui they believe in because I don't want us to be contradicting. And I'm like, okay, I clearly don't know anything about feng shui because I'm like literally like
Right.
navigating all of these things. And Marissa's very much like, I don't follow like general rules all the
Mhm.
time. And it's about like, we were talking about this the other day, like evolving with your space, right? Like she
Right.
loves wood. I love wood. I love
Mhm.
water. I love candles. Like I like a little bit of everything, not so much metal, which ironically is like something that like a lot of people need right now, just
Sure. And
FYI.
your wooden laptop is really good.
My laptop's so cute. It's covered in pink and purple flowers. It's very
Okay.
me. And I think that's important too, because like when I was using a company laptop and it was just this plain Dell, I was like,
Mhm.
bleh. And then when I got this and I was like, I want a really cool cover and I want like a really cool like laptop, all the equipment to just be like pretty and fun. It
Yeah.
shifts everything because I do move on the go. Like sometimes I'm recording in a hotel, sometimes I'm,
Mhm.
at a client's house, like sometimes I'm, you know,
Yeah.
outside.
It is again, I think you've spoken a lot on your podcast about how to be more conscious about the energy you allow in and the energy that you create. And how when you do that, it is like whether it's your friend's story about, we invited more money in, there's an energy here that's like happy and it's like, bringing us that, or whether it's bringing you, more time for the things I'll give you actually a fun story about my company. Before we had a name for this, right? I was thinking we have to name, we had an early version, people are using it, da, da, da. We're still tuning it, right? Still making mistakes and making it better, but seemed to be working at this point. And I didn't have a name. And I had every bad name in my head. I was like talking to Laura, I'm like, should we call it like productivity mate focus app 13? You know what I mean? Like it was so comical how I was like struggling with this. So we got married and we're going on our honeymoon. And I think I mentioned, we met in yoga. Yoga is a big part of our life. In Bali, there's a lot of yoga, right? So it's like,
Oh
great, we're
yeah.
going to do yoga and eat. And so we're heading over there. And I said to Laura, you know what? Maybe this is a gift from the universe because the next 10 days, no one's going to bug me. They all know I'm on my honeymoon. There's no, could you prove the stapler purchase? There's nothing that's going to come in. I was like, so maybe this is the space where I'll have that weird thought where my unconscious mind says, oh, here's a great name, right? So she's like, okay, that's plausible. Let's do it. And I said, what might be helpful for me is, do you mind if on the first day I do have a couple quick Zooms with some of our members and just ask them like to give me things to put in my unconscious? Like, what do you like what we do? What's your favorite? Do you love like the focus music? Do you love the smart assistant? Do you love the timer? What's the thing? And then let that just sort of like metabolize and percolate in the back of my mind, right? So she's like, great, I'm going to the pool. Enjoy. I'll see you at dinner.
That's
Right?
like what I would say.
Yeah. So I have like three of these that first day, all really nice. And I was like, I just need 10 minutes of time. Who's down to chat with me? So three people said, I'll talk today. The third one, about 8 minutes in, when I've asked my dumb questions about, what's your favorite feature? Do you like the music? The guy knows I'm going into my wrap up of like, thank you so much, Fallon, for your time. I really, I asked for 10 minutes. I want to respect that. He goes, Steven, you didn't ask the right question. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, what was the right question? and, and he's still, this funny is this guy is still in our, I hope he hears this. He's still in our membership. I see him in the coffee shop sometimes. We have a feature where you can like see other people working around the world and stuff. And it's kind of nice, makes you feel not alone. And so I was like, what's our question? He's like, you should ask me why I pay you.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay, probably more bold than I would be. And, we charge like 30 cents a day. It's like, it's incredibly inexpensive. So wasn't really thinking that way, but it was also kind of a bold question. Like, why do you give me money for what I do? Right. And I was like, okay, so why do you pay me? He said, at 3 o'clock, I can be playing with my kids who are 2 and 4. Or at 6 o'clock, I can be like, where the hell did the day go? He said, the difference is I open Suhka in the morning. So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. And I want to have that time in the afternoon to be with them. Now, his kids are probably 4 and 6 or by now. But I was like, wow, dude, thank you for that. and I saw Laura at dinner. And I was like, this guy said this thing to me that was far more articulate than anything I have said about my own company. Right? I told
Yes.
her this. She's like, yeah, that's good. You should write that down. So we're going to bed
Wow.
that night, and she's like, we're brushing our little teeth. And Laura looks at me and she's like, in yoga, we hear a lot of like Sanskrit terms and, prana and dharma and karma and like all these things, these concepts. She's like, he basically said to you that concept of like sukha, of like the happiness you feel when you're self fulfilled, you're good at what you do, you know it, you feel like an ease with doing things that may be difficult for someone else because you're in your zone, you're in your lane.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I think that's what he's basically saying to you. And I was like, you know what? Why don't we name the company the Happiness Company? We'll call it the Suka Company. And hopefully people at some point ask, why did you name it this? And they learn like what Suka is and the concept of like when you're in the zone, when you're just doing the thing you're meant to do and it feels good. And then you suddenly have that time in the afternoon to play or go windsurfing or whatever it is you want to do. And I bought that URL from bed that night in Bali. I was like, let's see if that's available. I went and bought the, and that's how we named our company. I told my co-founder, I was like, guess what? And he's like, that's pretty cool. I like that.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
love the name. It's very powerful, but also calming at the same time.
I appreciate that. I'm telling you, like yoga, I
Yeah.
do yoga every day. And it is the days I don't, I can tell in the clarity of my thought. And also
Mm,
I'm kinder and just nicer on days when I do yoga.
totally.
Yeah, which is good. People want kinder, gentler Stephen. It's a good thing.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about the app, and I'll definitely put all the links below, everyone, so that you can learn more about it
That'd be
because
amazing.
I mean, that is the biggest motivator. Like, can this give me more time with my family? And I think as someone who doesn't
Right?
have kids, and the reason I didn't is because I didn't feel like I could financially,
Mhm.
emotionally, environmentally do it until recently. It's like you have 18 summers and the last few are when they're going to be like bratty little teenagers. Like
Right.
that's not a lot of time. So
Yeah.
if you're working your butt off, like why are you doing that?
I I feel that so deeply because I'm having my first child in November. Laura is pregnant right now. And I am so looking forward to it, which I never thought I would say. I was always like, oh, I don't know. Would I be a good dad? How would this work? And now I think a lot about like, what are the things that I'm doing and my peers, my generation are doing that is creating the world that my kids are going to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And am I doing things that I'm proud of? Am I doing things that will maybe make the world like 0.1% better? And that's a lot why I talk about stuff like this. And by the way, it's not about just what I create. If anyone is curious about something that I've said, my email is very public. You're welcome to put it in the show notes. If someone's like, hey, what can I read on this? Or, you mentioned that Cal Newport blog, da, da, da. I am happy if they drop me an email to say, oh, here's a great blog post to read. Here's a great book to read. Here's some, you want a different app that does, this thing and it has a back scratcher. Oh, there is someone that makes that thing. I'm happy to do that because I think it just is the little way we vote every day for the world we want to live in. It's those little actions that add up more so than, every 4 years I vote for someone who's going to do the thing. It's like every day you go, what are the 100 little things I did today? And in a small, like grains of sand, pile up to be a huge mountain. So
Amazing. So
anyway,
beautifully said. This was incredible. I am so grateful
thank you for
that,
having me on. This is super fun.
and I'm so excited for you and Laura. You guys are going to be amazing parents and definitely making the world a better place. So
We're trying.
I'm sending her and her sweet belly lots of love. And I'm just really excited for everyone to dive in because there's just a lot of really cool nuggets in here, especially for those of you who want to be more creative, you
Mhm.
want to be more efficient, you want to learn how to overcome procrastination. Like Stephen has such amazing tools and his app has amazing tools. And then even just this conversation, like I feel like is just going to spark some magic in people's lives. So thank you for bringing your unique, beautiful frequency to the
I would
pod.
love it if this helped one person. That would be a win.
Thank you for saying that. That's literally my motto. And I literally posted about it on Instagram this week. It's like, if it helps one person, it was worth it because it helped me and it helped you. So technically three people.
Yep. Totally with you. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Whoever stayed this long, thank you.
Yes. We love you. We're so grateful for you. We'll see you on the next episode. And thank you again, Stephen, so much.
Okay. Take care.
Bye for now.